America's obsession with secret societies goes back centuries. A new book details their history and why people today continue to subscribe to conspiracy theories.
The book is called Under the Eye of Power: How Fear of Secret Societies Shapes American Democracy. Colin Dickey is the author. He joins us now. He's a historian. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Oh my gosh, I didn't. Oh, that was.
Who did that?
Larry, you take the first question. I don't know how I just dropped my.
It's the Illuminati.
It is definitely, yeah, absolutely.
I'm so sorry.
There's a total
We're
conspiracy
usually
about
more
this.
professional
No,
than this.
that sounds fine.
Now that's funny.
So, Colin, tell people, for people who might not know, the United States back in its infancy was into these secret societies, and it was born of that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things I found when I was doing the research for this book that totally surprised me is I think our first contested election after George Washington's 2 terms between Adams and Jefferson, both sides were accusing the other guy of being a stooge for the Illuminati, which was sort of already a conspiracy theory back in the 1790s and 1800s. So this goes all the way back. So.
And is this driven out of the complexity of society that maybe sometimes frightens people as they try to come up with explanations for why things happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a lot of it. I think that I don't think people subscribe to conspiracy theories because they're misinformed or stupid so much as a conspiracy theory offers a kind of narrative of the world that provides an order against like chaos. So if you're sort of confused about why things are crazy, why things are chaotic, suddenly somebody comes along and says, you know, the Illuminati are behind everything. It makes sense. It sort of offers this kind of narrative, even if it's totally fake and kind of malevolent, it still gives people a sense of order. And I think that's a lot of what drives people to it.
Has it gotten even more so with social media? Has this ramped up the idea of conspiracy theories?
Yeah, I mean, definitely social media, I think that's absolutely true. But I think one of the things I tried to do with this book is show that we've always had this as part of our DNA. And so I think it's a little bit of a scapegoat to say, oh, you know, Facebook algorithm made me do this. I think it's hardwired into who we are, and it's a much bigger conversation, I think.
Well, as you say, uncertainty makes humans uncomfortable sometimes. But and it's not just dumb people.
Right.
Smart people believe in them too. So what is the running factor between people who believe in conspiracy theories and those who don't?
Right. I mean, the philosopher who coined the term conspiracy theory has this line about conspiracy theory happens when you get rid of God and ask what's in his place. So there's always something sort of quasi-theological about it, this idea of it's a belief system that goes beyond just interpreting the facts. You're sort of looking for a causal mechanism for the entire world. And I think if you want to debunk somebody's conspiracy theory, you have to start there. You have to sort of understand what it's doing for them kind of emotionally and existentially, but even before you get to the facts.
Has anyone ever studied how people maybe finally get away from a conspiracy theory? Because changing people's minds on a regular basis is not easy, but when you're ingrained in one line of thinking, has anything been done about that?
I mean, yeah, like what I've done when I talk to people who are, you know, deep in it is, again, I try and understand what is this doing, what emotionally is this doing for you? And can I address that emotional need that you have, your fear of chaos, your uncertainty about the future, your worries about your own health? Can I start there and sort of get you more receptive to understanding that maybe the conspiracy theory is not doing for you what it could be doing, and you know, it sort of move them off that way.
So to distinguish from conspiracy theories, there are conspiracies like the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, but what about secret societies? You think of the Masons. They're not secret at all. Right? What evidence do we have that there are any secret societies?
Yeah, I mean, Benjamin Franklin has this great line about the Masons. Their grand secret is that they have no secret. You know, they sort of, their PR was too good. They were so good at sort of getting people excited about them as this sort of secret society that once people started to get suspicious and they had to say, no, we're actually just like a fraternal organization. We just drink together. Nobody bought that anymore. You know, so I think we both have had real secret societies, and I talk a lot about them in the book. You know, the Underground Railroad was a secret society, but you know, for a good purpose. You know, and then there's a lot of sort of fictitious ones. The Illuminati we've talked about, the Satanists of the 1980s who were, you know, doing ritual sacrifice in daycares, and these things repeat over and over again with these kind of new moral panics that flare up every generation.
Are we seeing people using conspiracy theories to advance an agenda, whether it's politics or something else? And is that even new?
Yeah, I mean, what I found is sort of looking at this sort of historically is a lot of time you'll get an element of society that is sort of arguing for new rights or visibility, whether it's the civil rights movement or the LGBTQ movement, and that's often when you get these conspiracy theories that sort of are mobilized to push back against this segment of the population who is sort of asking for rights and recognition. These conspiracy theories will be used to kind of deflate that or argue against that, and that's unfortunately what we're seeing now.
What's the biggest thing that surprised you when you were doing this research?
Oh, the biggest thing that surprised me when I was doing this research was definitely when I set out to say, like, what is a secret society?
Yeah.
And, the best example I found was of a group working in secret to undermine American democracy was unfortunately the CIA in the 50s and 60s. And I was like, oh, yeah, that is actually the thing. When they were sort of doing unethical experiments on human beings and, without people's consent, I thought, oh, yeah, that was factually correct, and yeah, I was not expecting that.
Wow.
Is believing and spreading conspiracy theories harmless, or can it cause damage?
If you want to believe in conspiracy theories, I would recommend the Loch Ness Monster. That's a good, wholesome conspiracy theory. No, it's not paranoid. It's just you can go out and look at a lake and wait for something to pop its head up.
Yeah.
The other stuff I think is a lot more sketchy, and I think there's real harm there.
All right. Well, the book is called Under the Eye of Power: How Fear of Secret Societies Shapes American Democracy. For more information, head to colindickey.com. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me on.